The lights in Las Vegas were supposed to shine on A'ja Wilson, not expose her. Hours before the game, the MVP trophy was hers. The spotlight fixed squarely on the Aces star as the league crowned its face of dominance. The crowd roared, the cameras captured every angle, and the narrative seemed already written. This would be a night of celebration, another chapter in Vegas's march to dynasty status. But basketball has a way of ripping up scripts, and by the final buzzer, the very stage set to glorify Wilson became the backdrop for humiliation. The Indiana Fever, missing 6 players, stripped the Aces of their swagger with an 89-73 Game 1 victory that rattled the champions to their core. From the opening moments, it was clear something was off. The whistles that usually shield stars were swallowed. Kelsey Mitchell, driving strong to the rim, absorbed hard contact from Wilson, only to find herself punished with a technical foul, something no player at any level of basketball would expect. The message was obvious. Wilson would be protected even at the cost of fairness. But Indiana didn't let it shake them. If anything, it lit a fire. Every flop, every shove, every moving screen that went uncalled only made them play faster, harder, sharper. The Aces tried to drag them into a street fight. Instead, they awakened a team with nothing to lose. Vegas leaned into intimidation, but it reeked of desperation. Lexi Hull was thrown to the floor repeatedly. Jackie Young set hip checks that belonged in football. Wilson herself swung elbows, wedged into bodies after whistles, and toppled to the ground like she'd been hit by a truck whenever a Fever player breathed near her. But the act wore thin fast. Replay after replay exposed the flopping for what it was. The Aces weren't playing championship basketball. They were trying to disguise frustration with theater. Indiana saw through it. Kelsey Mitchell, unfazed, turned every foul into motivation. She torched Vegas for a playoff career-high 34 points, each bucket carving into the arena's energy like a knife. Jewel Lloyd, Chelsea Gray, Jackie Young, it didn't matter who stepped in front of her, they all ended up on the wrong side of a highlight reel. Mitchell wasn't just scoring. She was dismantling the Aces' defense piece by piece, punishing them for every shove and every smirk. Her performance screamed that the MVP wasn't wearing black and red. She was wearing Indiana Fever colors. Beside her, Odyssey Sims played like she'd been waiting her whole career for this stage. Her drives sliced through defenders, her defense disrupted Vegas's flow, and her leadership steadied a team that by all accounts should have been rattled. Natasha Howard and Brianna Turner were rocks in the paint, meeting Wilson's physicality head-on, never retaliating, but never backing down. Each possession turned into a war of attrition, and the Fever bigs refused to give an inch. Then there was Lexi Hull, who didn't need to fill the box score to define her night. Assigned to hound Jackie Young, she forced her east to west, cut off her angles, and sapped her confidence. Hull's plus 24 plus minus told the real story. She had shut the door on one of Vegas's most dangerous weapons, and towering above it all was Aaliyah Boston. The irony couldn't have been sharper. Hours earlier, Wilson held the MVP trophy aloft, but in the game that followed, Boston dominated her from start to finish. Wilson, who had strutted into the arena with a crown, trudged out shooting 6 for 22, missing layup after layup, begging referees for whistles that never came. Boston met her strength with strength, position with position, and composure with calm. Each time Wilson forced a shot, Boston was there, hands straight, body firm, erasing her angles and exposing her frustration. Wilson's antics, her flops, her elbows, her pleading weren't the moves of an MVP. They were the moves of someone who had lost control. Even Becky Hammon, usually unshakable, sounded rattled afterward. She spoke of effort, of dying on screens, of missed chances, but not of Indiana's execution. It was easier to pretend the Aces beat themselves than admit what had unfolded. The Fever had outplayed, out-toughed, and outclassed the defending champs in their own house, and the symbolism was impossible to ignore. On the very day the league celebrated its chosen star, that star was humbled. On the very court where history was supposed to be written for Las Vegas, it was Indiana, the forgotten 6th seed, that authored the headline. For a decade, the Fever had been an afterthought, a franchise buried in drought and doubt. But with this win, they didn't just crash the party, they stole it. Now the math looms over Vegas like a storm cloud. In a best-of-5 series, 72% of teams that win Game 1 advance. It isn't destiny, but it is history. And history is not on the Aces' side. They have the names, the rings, the pedigree. But pedigree doesn't score baskets, and trophies don't block shots. Right now, Indiana has the momentum, the confidence, and the belief. Vegas, meanwhile, has questions. Can Wilson bounce back from being humbled by Boston? Can they keep Mitchell from detonating again? Can their composure return before the series slips away? Inside the Fever locker room, there were no doubts. Stephanie White praised her team for playing to their standard, not to the noise. Mitchell, bruised but unbowed, spoke with quiet defiance, noting that respect had to be given to the Aces' resume, but that respect didn't mean surrender. The veterans nodded. The young stars smiled. They weren't celebrating a fluke. They were preparing for the next fight. What Vegas intended as a coronation became a warning. The Aces thought they could bully their way through the semifinals. Instead, they exposed themselves as rattled champions, more concerned with flopping than finishing. Indiana, battered and overlooked, didn't just survive it. They thrived in it. And now the reigning champs find themselves staring down a crisis. So the question is no longer whether Indiana belongs. The question is whether Las Vegas has enough left to survive. Was this a one-game shock or the beginning of a collapse no MVP trophy can cover? One thing is certain. The Fever are no longer the underdog story. They are the story. What do you think? Did Indiana just expose A'ja Wilson and the Aces as overrated, or can Vegas claw their way back? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next breakdown of this historic playoff run.